Welcome to our channel Typebook. We are Chris and Rose, INTJ and INFJ, and we are cataloging a variety of people based on their Jungian psychological types and MBTI four-letter abbreviations. Please consider liking our videos and subscribing to our channel so we can get the word out of what we're trying to do here. This video today comes by request of a viewer, so thank you very much for that. We are looking at Hozier.
3, 2, 1, go.
Of how things work. And one of my biggest influences would be folk music, let's say, or just the storytelling. Like, let's say, just the kernel of storytelling. If it's a person given their experience, given this is what I do. Here's a story. Let's say I walked this land and I saw this and I experienced this or I felt this. There's politics has everything to do with that of who you are and where you are and what you experienced and what you faced, and so for me all art has a political dimension. So, but yeah, a lot of the songs obviously were referencing the album was called Wasteland Baby. It was named after a song called Wasteland Baby, which is this imagines the end of the world happening, so in all sorts of different ways.
All right, let's stop.
Okay.
So he's mentioning and being inspired by story through song. So basically he's saying that he draws great inspiration from hearing about other people's experiences. There's something to be gained in that. And I think that is very true of an INFJ, because we sort of live vicariously through hearing other people's experiences. There's something in that personally for us. And I think that comes from a struggle to understand who we are. So when we hear other people's experiences, when they relate things about their life, it has meaning for us because we are listening to it. And not only is it interesting by itself, but it's also interesting on a secondary level because it's kind of like, what can we take from this?
Right.
On a personal level.
So how does that look then? How are you doing that? Are you just comparing yourself to them, or?
No, I don't think we're doing it consciously.
Right.
Like I wonder,
taking it all in and.
Right. I wonder if he even knows this about himself, honestly.
Right.
He does.
Yeah.
He does, but he doesn't. If that makes sense. He knows it.
Yeah. He's telling you as, oh, this is what I like. This is what I like.
Yes, but then he's synthesizing it, and then he's putting a product out there that has been heavily influenced by this other genre. Understand? So he's listening to the folk songs, he's listening to the stories being told, he's processing it, and then he's using it to make his own art. And so he's showing you then through that who he is as a person.
3, 2, 1, go.
Do you enjoy being in Ireland more than being in the States?
I do, yeah. I do. Home is home. So there's a lot of wonderful things about being in the States that, and first of all, I haven't found an audience there. Found such amazing support there. Yeah. As it stands, I've made a very conscious decision to live in Ireland and to continue to call Ireland home.
Who's
stop again.
At home now?
Okay.
This is FE. He's being asked a question. Which do you prefer? He realizes if he says Ireland, he's kind of trapped. He realizes if he says United States, he's kind of trapped. He wants to be honest. He wants to say which one he really loves best, but at the same time, he has to sort of...
He's in a room of Irish people.
Yeah, he has to sort of smooth it over, right? And say, well, I still think, the United States is wonderful because of this. It's almost like that...
Yeah. There's almost like a structure to these answers, isn't there? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, this is really nice because of this, but I really like home.
And what is that? It's intuition with extroverted feeling, because you realize how it will be perceived or could be perceived if you say, well, I prefer Ireland. So you kind of have to sort of cover both sides and make sure.
For instance, I'll just be like,
you would just
I would just say like one of them, like this one because of that.
Right. You're
asking my opinion.
Yeah, you're not thinking about people out there who are going to be upset because you chose an answer. Like, he knows that. He knows people might be a little bit offended, so he's trying to kind of smooth it all over, right?
Just soften the blow in
soften
some
the
ways.
blow. That's exactly right.
Okay, before we continue then, don't forget to like and subscribe, because we need like and subscribe. It's our favourite.
Yes. We appreciate it very much.
Yes, and it just keeps us motivated, really. You know, it's nice to see, like, we're getting more likes as we go. So, alright, 3, 2, 1, go.
Here in Ireland?
Yeah, who's your family?
Family, my folks, my mum and dad, and my brother also is based here in Ireland.
What did your dad do for a living?
My dad's retired now. When I was a kid, he would have been a gigging musician. He was a live musician when I was, a very young child. Primarily kind of rock music, blues music, so what a great record collections, And
what was the band he was in?
He was in a few bands in Dublin. One of them was called Free Booze, I think, and then...
All right, stop again.
Okay.
I know I keep breaking this up, but I keep seeing things. I just want to quickly point them out. When he asked the question, what does your dad do? Again, it's TI. He started backwards. How would you answer? You would say he's a musician.
My dad works in a shop.
Right. Do you notice how he kind of had to go backwards? We think to the end first.
Yes.
So
exactly.
we have the end answer, and then
I
we
feel
go
like
back
it's the conclusion that you got.
Right.
And then it's almost like the conclusion pops into your mind, and then you're like, oh, well, how do I take it all apart and say what it is?
Right. Exactly. Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go again.
Yeah,
Free Booze, that's a great name.
yeah, totally. So it was a genius, because people would see that on a pub sign and just come straight in.
Yeah.
Just genius in it. So a lot of my earliest, when I had a tape player growing up, would have been actually, to be fair, like a lot of the material that they were learning, like little mixtapes that they'd made for material for them to learn for different sets of different kinds, and then his just record collection. So yeah, great musical influence there.
And what did your mum do?
Artist. She was would have been a stay-at-home mom. She kind of kept us all going, but she also very, very arty kind of person. Would turn their hand to loads of stuff. Went back to study fine art a few years ago, which is great.
And how many brothers do you have?
Just the one.
And what does he do?
He produces film, fantastic director, producer, and writes as well too. So that's been invaluable actually with music video and video content.
Yeah.
To have somebody to bounce ideas off.
How?
Okay, stop. So this one took us quite a while because he has a bit of a unique circumstantial, right? The artistic family, the Quaker-ness, right?
I think he threw us off, like you said initially, because he's so open in his feeling.
Yes.
In a way that typically we don't see from INFJ men. And
no, he's very comfortable.
So we actually did a little digging into his circumstantial to see what we could find out. And we discovered that his parents are very artistic. It seems like he was raised in a very free kind of home, very artistic, I guess we would say more hippie kind of environment, I guess, if you want to put a label on it. And then I think his parents converted to the Quaker faith, which is also very free and
open-minded.
Embracing. Yeah, open-minded, right?
Yeah.
Kind of pacifists. And so this is the environment he grew up in. So you can't deny this probably had a profound impact on his development as a person.
Yeah, so for me, I always sense a little bit like of overhype in some of these INFJs.
Right.
Where they put on a little bit extra than they have to sort of relate to people and, agree with them, and, they put a bit of like charisma into their peopling, so to speak. And this guy, he just does not. Like, he's so comfortable and straightforward. And that's something very different for me. In that way, he does come across more like an ISFJ, which we were initially kind of thinking. But when we looked into it a bit more, we saw that it was not.
And I'm not sure when we will release this video, either before or after this. It won't matter eventually. But we're going to talk about INFP and INFJ, because on the website, the big debate is which one is he? And that's not a debate to us at all. I mean, we would say, we would lean, he could be ISFJ, although, you know, after you hear him start to speak, you can tell he's definitely intuitive. So I think he's kind of, maybe
INFP
in a way.
And INFJ is like apples and oranges, really.
Yeah. Maybe in a way, he's kind of a stereotypical, maybe what people would think as INFP, again, because he has the long hair. He's sort of like, you know, very kind of free and open.
Yeah.
And that, you don't see that a whole lot. You don't see that manifestation of INFJ a whole lot. But again, there's a reason for it, I think. And that's his circumstantial. That's his the conditions that he was brought up in. I want to raise one more point. Notice how he's struggling. This man keeps asking him to sum up people in his life with one word. Like I'm almost in this man's body when these questions are being asked. What does your brother do? What does your father do? And I know in that split second, he's in his mind thinking, how do you sum up a person with one word? He's struggling.
He's very sort of...
Yes. Because he sees...
awkward and slow in his response, isn't he?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not, I know he's awkward and slow, but it's for a reason. It's because in his mind, he's literally going, how do you sum up a man in one word? How do I say artist without saying all this other stuff about who this person is? That's a difficult question for us.
Well, if you say artist, like, I kind of relate to this a bit, because I think what you're saying is, if I said artist, I'd think, oh, well, there's loads of, you know, there's different types, and like there's so many different, almost like definitions to artist. Like, what if I said that word, then it might be construed as this kind of artist, like painting, or this kind of artist, or, you know, like so many ways that can be interpreted. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, that's one side of it. And then the other side of it is being able to, how do you sum up a person with just one word? When a person is the sum of the parts. So artist is just one of the parts. Like, he's seeing a whole person. Artist is just part of that. So that's a difficult thing to answer.
Most people don't think like this, do they? This is like a very NI way of thinking.
It is, yeah.
Because
it's NI.
You say artist and people go, oh yeah.
So you understand my point here? All this is going through his head. What you said, what will they perceive if I say artist? And then I know this person to be so much more than artist. All this is happening, and then you say he's slow. Yes, but only because how do you answer these questions? These are difficult questions.
No, I imagine I would be kind of similar, really. Mm-hmm. It depends, really. We have a bit of an advantage because of the TE, but... All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
How relevant is the ability to be wise and clever in that social media world, as opposed to the genius of your music? It seems like, how do you cope with that, or how do you move through it?
It's a tricky one. I used to...
Like, would you do tweets about Trump when you're drunk?
I avoid it. I managed to avoid it. As well, I get very anxious going on the record over anything, because even interviews like this, I suppose. But there was a time where I would enjoy that a lot more.
So, are you nervous about what you might say, and then that being interpreted by other people and it turning into some internet thing?
Possibly. There's that. There's the fear of social reprisals, or there's that. There's also just...
I don't think you've said anything yet, really.
I haven't made it. Give me time to make an arse of myself at some point. I think it's more the more you try to explain yourself, the more you'll end up being misunderstood anyway. You know, there's part of there's an anxiety there, I suppose. I've kind of managed to avoid it. There was a time when I would have been more active for putting my voice out there. There is for certain things that I would feel strongly about. If in the case of like the marriage referendum here or something like that, if you have a platform and you feel you can offer a signal boost to something in some way, shape or form in a useful way, yeah. But unless there's something that I think is very useful, I try to be careful about what I say.
Again, this kind of speaks, I think, to how he was brought up. Because somehow in life, we all have to find the balance in who we are. Well, hopefully we do. I realize some people never do. But so he kind of started it a little bit like feeling free to just say whatever he wanted to say. Now he's saying, now I'm realizing that that's not really what I want to do.
That's not me. Right.
Yeah. So for him, it's kind of finding the balance in who he is.
He's definitely very different for an INFJ. Like, you know, I could almost see more in common with an INTJ in this one. You know? Because he's got that sort of straight up kind of...
Well, you and I said this yesterday when we were talking privately. We said that it's an interesting consideration if an INFJ male is raised in a home where it's very free, presumably probably with feeler type parents, as opposed to an INTJ who would be raised in a home with thinker parents.
Yes.
That they're probably going to start out life by saying what they think and then somehow kind of finding the balance later.
Which one did I have? Put it in the comments.
What kind of home did you have is what you're asking, yes. So I think
thinker
that's
parents
kind of...
or feeler parents.
Yeah, and we can't say it enough how important it is to understand the impact the circumstantial has on an individual's manifestation.
Yeah, it's more than your type itself in most cases.
Yes.
It's rare that your type has more of a consistent influence on what you end up like.
I'm just going to throw this out here at the end of the video, because we made this video about INFJ and INFP. I think the reason he's voted INFJ is because people see what's being put out there as INFJ when it's really INFP.
Yes.
And then they're voting INFJ. This is so interesting.
Okay, yeah, this is difficult. This is difficult to say. So it's almost like Hozier has a more of a typical manifestation of an INFP, but he's actually an INFJ.
Right. And I think it's more his manner, right? His it's how he looks. It's the long hair, it's the free and loose kind of way.
And
yeah. Right. It's all those things because he's been raised in that home where he's comfortable with like the feeling side of things and the free and easy kind of lifestyle.
Yes. So yeah. Manifestation is kind of like how you turn out with your type. So you can have a similar manifestation in theory to a completely different type. You know, for instance, you could be, you know, a goth or emo, and there'd be multiple different types in there, and they all relate to each other because apparently their circumstantial makes them a goth or an emo, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a subculture in some ways, but how you turn out as a person with that is kind of what we call manifestation.
Right. So I was kind of surprised when I saw on the website that he was typed correctly, but then I realized
he's typed incorrectly, but from the wrong place.
Yeah.
Or correctly from the wrong place.
Yeah, because our struggle was initially, is he ISFJ? That was our struggle.
Yes.
And so then to see that he was typed quote unquote correctly was surprising to me. But when I thought about it, it's like, no, really, it's what people perceive because of what's been put out there. on YouTube and the like as INFJ. That's really INFP.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to compare a P type to a J type, and those are the two top answers, then likelihood is you're really wrong, because it's very, very rare that a P type kind of seems like a J type, and vice versa. There's only like one or two types where you could get confused in that way.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell.
Remember, each video is not a comprehensive analysis. If you want to know more about a specific psychological type, check out the playlists, where we have unique takes for each person.
Here are some suggested playlists for you to watch or other relevant videos.